more on Apple buying Google ads, app tracking, and the press and large companies. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Text Expander by Smile, the makers of world-class software. Visit textexpander.com/podcast to learn more and download your free demo. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the third in a three-part MacVoices live conversation. This time, we wrap up our discussion of Apple purchasing Google ads for apps in the App Store and why it does or does not hurt any of us. We veer off into a conversation about app tracking and how that's affecting us, and also provide some commentary on why it seems that the press covers big companies, especially big tech companies, in a negative light. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. So I want to get the chat room in here, and I want to ask you guys in the chat room, I mean, do you turn the app tracking on or off? Excuse me, do you turn it on? Do you leave it off? I'm really intrigued because Mark, I think he's just, or I'm not sure who said it. It was either you or Warren who said, only 18% of people are turning this on. And my sense was that there was a lot bigger number. But, is that propaganda perpetrated by the marketing industry that wants you to believe that, oh my God, this is a disaster and, we're going out of business because we're not tracking you. And the discussion also sort of took a turn into app tracking. And I want to just take it back for a second to the article. I mean, does anybody see this as an underhanded, sleazy kind of thing that Apple's doing? Since the developer's still getting paid, and okay, if Apple's getting paid, again, I go back to my Best Buy example. Best Buy makes the money if I buy the iPad from Best Buy. If I buy it from Apple, then Best Buy doesn't make the money, but Apple makes the money either way. That just one way Apple makes less. So I see this as those as very parallel examples. Am I missing it?
Here's the thing. I don't think that it's like it's they've been doing it a long time. It's just, I think, slow news. But if I'm Netflix and you click on the Apple link and subscribe to Netflix through Apple's app instead of on my website, I'm gonna be real cranky about that.
I could see that.
Then don't offer the choice.
I think one article I saw was
Apple
using HBO
I'm not saying it should be illegal. I'm just saying that's an example of somebody who might not like it.
I could see them being mad about that.
I think that if there's a problem, it only applies to the really big players. It doesn't matter, and it's this kind of thing that Brittany is talking about. And the other thing is that the Best Buy thing is kind of different because the thing is, in order to sell software onto an iPhone, you must go through Apple. You can't go any other way. So, people sell, the stuff that sells through Best Buy, it sells also through Amazon, it sells through B&H Photo, it sells through Newegg. And actually, the way those Best Buy ads kind of thing usually work is sort of completely different. Best Buy actually probably goes to the vendor and says, you must pay us to run these ads. Best Buy is not paying for those. They're twisting the vendor's arms. I've been there. And the flip side is, it could well be that Apple is playing some hardball here. I mean, that's the way it's done. And, I used to sell software through distribution, and, those people would, all stab you in the back without, thinking about it. And they were always looking for every angle. And, you knew you never would get your last invoice paid if they were, ever dropped you or whatever. Go back, I haven't seen any recently. I'm not sure why, but 10 years ago, there was a lot of stories about how mean Walmart was to all their vendors and how difficult it was to be a vendor for Walmart. that's the way that, this stuff is played on that playing field, and it usually doesn't ever, it's usually never publicized, for one thing, because, the flip side is those vendors, Walmart's vendors will never complain, because then they know that they'll be kicked out of Walmart. There's a whole seamy underside of all this stuff. And, I'm sure there's lots of people at Apple that, once worked at Walmart and Kmart and, everybody knows how everything's done. And Apple, I guess, is a little different, because people like to think that Apple's their fuzzy think
friend.
Different company. And so they're like, oh no, Apple can't be this cutthroat, but sure they are. And if it's not this, believe me,
for-profit business.
It's a for-profit, public, large business. Believe me, they're doing all kinds of cutthroat things. If it's not this, I think it's not much fun to be a vendor for Apple either.
But Jim, at the end of the day, I get cutthroat and for-profit business, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily evil. That's just what.
Didn't say it was.
Well, but there's this perception out there, I think, that I mean, if you don't agree with me, just go and scan the headlines, especially in the tech press, about Apple, Google, and Amazon, and they would have you believe that, and Facebook, of course, and that these entities, the bigger the entities are, the more evil they are, the more that they're out to take advantage of you. And I think that the privacy thing with Apple, I mean, I don't think that's of course it's in Apple's best interest, but it's also in our best interest. It's not a zero-sum game. So, why does this constantly keep being thrown at us? Well, David, you're awfully quiet. That you concern me. I mean,
yeah, no.
Where do you stand on this?
It's just I don't know. It's really hard to say. I'm kind of on the sidelines here, trying to think what there is with the apps, and I don't have a really direct answer for that right now. I just don't. It just gives me. I'm perplexed with it.
I think if you want to look at companies that have terrible business practices that are really bad for society, maybe we should look a little closer at telecommunications companies.
Yeah.
And guess what? They own media companies. So, they're very happy to deflect, go look at Apple and Google and what they're doing with privacy, but for sure don't ever look at what Verizon does or what AT&T does, just ignore that,
Xfinity, Comcast. There's so many others. That
any rich, successful company is going to be eventually perceived as a
and scrutinized
company.
What's the old saying? Like, if you're lucky, you live long enough to become the enemy, or whatever it is.
I'm on like a next door kind of thing, and everybody, we have a Starbucks in town. And we have a local coffee shop in town, and constantly people are saying, support local business, go to the local coffee shop here, and I always write the same thing is, Starbucks was once your local coffee shop. Starbucks was once that, and they became big. They had one store in Seattle, and now they are what they are. And it's like we want companies to do well until they do, and then once they do well, then they're the enemy and they're taking business. I mean, you look at Walmart and Target that took, the whole thing where they took over small businesses and everybody hated that. And now the internet is taking them over. So any company is going to be looked at that way. And any company is going to be put under a microphone, and every company is eventually going to be evil. And we're holding on to Apple not being evil because we have, they stress a lot things that are important to humanity, and that's why we like them. They stress that they're eco-friendly and they're environmental and they're LGBTQ and all the good things that what we would consider to be good people would like. So, but they're a company, they're for profit, and they're gonna want to make money. And if they have a way to make money advertising, they're going to do it.
It's just like with advertising in itself. You think when Apple wants to run these ads, what does Google do? What does Facebook do? I mean, you've got the same situation. Why can't Apple? If Apple wants to block these ads and wants to block them, I can see the point of some people feeling like there's a little bit of a conflict here that we're actually going to block these ads, if giving you that option. But then they want to turn around and run their own ads. Well, that's how how advertising works. They have to be open to being able to do that, and it is what it is, as far as I'm concerned.
But it's one thing to put a billboard. And I'm going to take an analog example. It's one thing to put a billboard up there for David's show and say, David Ginsburg, in touch with iOS. David is not getting any information back from that. He spent his money. He's getting his exposure by how many hundreds or thousands of cars drive by it each day until it gets whitewashed over with the next ad.
Right.
And that's the fallacy here, that people think that's all that's happening, that the ads are just being put in front of them and they can ignore them and, that's it. But at the end of the day, your reaction to those ads, maybe, pardon me, maybe somebody driving down the highway says, hey, I need to check that out. But David has no way of knowing that. He doesn't know.
How would I know?
But if they see an ad for In Touch with iOS on the web and David has it set up right, they click it. He gets immediate feedback that this is a potential somebody that's interested in me, and here's what maybe I can make money from them.
But Dave's going to try to know his audience. Dave's going to put that big billboard sign closer to Silicon Valley than if he had to. He's going to put the sign where people might see that. That's why you see when you go into some areas, you see like cities, you see more like beer and sports and things like that, because that's the demographics that you're looking at that point. Right. So.
And that's why, companies like Google and Facebook are so enormously profitable and enormously helpful, to companies who want to sell stuff. Because, if you search for something, that act betrays intent. Bingo, Google knows how to serve an ad. If based on what and who and what you're interested in, bingo, that's behavioral information that Facebook has in order to serve up an ad. So the reality is, there's been for 100 years this struggle between advertising to stimulate demand, to help companies sell stuff, and we're just seeing, sort of a modern, high-tech, web-based version of this.
Advertisers want to know your demographics. That's a statement.
Right. Well, actually, I have a sort of a debate, with a lot of classic advertising people on this, and advertising, demographics are, what's that old quote? Somebody said it's sort of like the office of the vice president. See, it's not worth a warm bucket of spit. You don't care if the person is male or female or this age or et cetera. What you care about is, are they interested in buying your product? And that's what Facebook has, based on all these years that they put all these like buttons and everything out there, is, they've created this huge database, where, okay, if you clicked on something, you might. That's one sign of interest. Is it, the explicit sign that you want to buy something? Maybe, maybe not. But that's the sort of information that, mining the web at web scale, like Facebook has done, that they're able, to get this sort of information. And by the way, Google with their, through YouTube, they absolutely have the same thing. And some of the channels I look at, every now and then, maybe once a year or something, somebody will open up a little bit and talk about, the reason I changed my shows from 30 minutes in length to 20 minutes in length is because, 90, I'm illustrating a point here, 97% of the people don't watch past 22 minutes. So for me, to create that other 7 minutes of content is an enormous amount of time. I don't get paid for it, so I'm just shrinking everything to live within this space. And guess what? I've done that, and I've tried an experiment these past 3 months, and the amount of money I make on YouTube has actually gone up. Why? Because people are more excited about 20-minute videos instead of 30-minute videos. So the whole point here is this is a very multidimensional, complex environment where ultimately it's a battle for your attention, because getting your attention is step one of hopefully getting you to buy something. And going back to ATT, where I think this conversation first started, is now Apple is coming along and saying, oh, if you don't want all this stuff, if you don't want to transmit back all this stuff about your, if it has no value because you don't care about getting buying recommendations from site A, B, or C, this is what you need to do, and prevent all these other people from getting more information about you and profiling you. And part of the reason I think they're scared about it is stuff goes stale over time, again, I don't want to turn this more into a conversation about advertising and ad tech and things than it already has. But I think to the extent that Apple's out there advertising, good for Apple. If they make money, guess what? Their spotlighted vendors make money. So I think that's good for both of them. I hope it works out, because if it doesn't work out, Apple at some point, they'll stop doing it. So this is a self-correcting situation. I don't think it's a problem more than I think getting stuff in my mailbox every week from Albertsons is a problem, because they're out there spotlighting all sorts of other vendors. And I think it was Warren, or maybe it was Jim, who said that yes, a lot of those other vendors they're basically paying fees of various sorts to be there, right. As they do, or maybe it was David who said that. So it's Amazon does that too, and that's another time for another discussion. And but AT&T, I think great. People make their own decision: thumbs up or thumbs down.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Smile, the makers of Text Expander. I'm going to make this very simple. If you aren't using Text Expander, you need to try Text Expander. If you already tried Text Expander, I'm betting that you're still using Text Expander to help you be more productive and more efficient, no matter what you do, no matter how much of Text Expander's power you're tapping. That's because a huge amount of Text Expander's power is easy to tap. A few keystrokes can turn into a standard response to a customer email, a block of code that is repeatedly used on your web projects, or an email signature that you use for just special occasions, or just about anything else you can think of. If you can type it, Text Expander can make it easier to access and more accurate to access, each and every single time. It only takes a few minutes to set up and understand how Text Expander can help you, and it will pay you back every single time you expand a snippet. I want you to take a very few minutes to become more productive today. Visit textexpander.com/podcast, sign up for a free trial, and find out what Text Expander can do for you. That's textexpander.com/podcast from Smile, the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. Thanks to Smile for being here. Well, what I think is really interesting about this discussion is that nobody has pointed out that Apple is paying, in this case, Google, to buy those ads. So Google is benefiting from Apple. Somebody, sort of to Mark's point, somebody is having to buy these ads. And if it's Apple putting money back into the marketing ecosystem, then why is that being overlooked? But we're way off track here. And I want to point out a couple things from the chat room. So Brad wins the prize. He just noticed, he was the first one to notice that Jim has a notch. So Brad, you get bragging rights. But Brian, I think Brian,
it's an adjustable notch.
It's an adjustable notch. Jeez.
Look at that.
But Brian points out that he had an aha moment the other day while driving. He realized that he's lived with a notch for a very long time. Car windshields and the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So, there you are. The notch is not a big deal. There is precedent in the analog world.
Get over it.
Yes, exactly.
All right,
Guys, thank you. This has been an interesting discussion. It took some turns I didn't expect, but thank you. Thank you all for being here and for doing it. Rich wants to know if we can still use the word capitalism. Well, I hope so, Rich, because I've used it a number of times, and I still don't think it's a dirty word, but that's me.
Just wait till we're at the point of Minority Reports, where we walk around the stores and they scan our retinas and they know exactly what we're doing. So,
you mean they're not doing that now, Warren?
They're not doing now, but we're going to look back at this time and say, "Remember the good old times where it was just Facebook collecting data about me?" It's going to happen.
So it's like Amazon's doing it now in their brick and mortar stores. They'll scan the items as you go out of the store, and you don't even have to go up to a register.
They'll scan your pupils and say, "Hey, Dave, you want to buy more of those radishes again?"
Yeah. That's right.
Dave is a big radish buyer.
I am.
All right, so let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you, and then we'll get out of here. And I'm going to reverse it this time, although, as usual, the order has shifted because people came and went. So, Brittany, you're up first. Where can folks find you to connect with you and discuss everything that we've discussed here tonight?
On Twitter for tech things, I'm ADD Liberator, and that is also my handle on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's, that's the one I meant.
The tubes
Like,
of you.
The YouTubes.
The YouTubes. Okay,
yeah.
Great. Thanks for being here, Brittany. Always a pleasure.
Me.
Mark Fuccio, I'm glad you got your connectivity issues straightened out and we're able to come back. Where can folks find you?
Twitter at Mark Fuccio, MarkFuccio, all one word, lowercase.
That's it? You're hiding all your other activities?
Well, people can get me in LinkedIn too via Mark Fuccio, but make it short, sweet, simple. Only one thing to know.
Perfect. Kelly Guimont, the birthday girl. What are you doing to celebrate your birthday after this?
After this, going out to dinner, there's a high probability of cake, and there is an excellent probability of presents because they're all sitting in the other room waiting. And I already over this last weekend got to take a day trip to the Oregon coast and walk on the beach and visit Haystack Rock and drink a bunch of whiskey. And so it was a really good time. So it's going pretty well. And I have birthday related shenanigans planned for this coming weekend with Brittany as well. So you can find me over at themacobserver.com, where I host the Daily Observations podcast 5 days a week. You can find me over at the After Show at aftershowpodcast.com, where Mike Rose and I catch up with each other occasionally after like a month or so away. We catch up and talk about how long it's been since we recorded a podcast, and then we don't do it for another month. You can find me on the Incomparable Network, where I occasionally pop up on shows like Football is Life about Ted Lasso, and just recorded a show about Only Murders in the Building, which was a really fun television program to watch. And I have my own show there, I Want My MCU TV, where we talk about the new show on Disney Plus. We keep calling it Marvel Plus, but we have that coming. And otherwise, for the rest of the evening, you can find me watching the new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. And if you want to talk to me about it, you can do so on Twitter as Verso.
Great. Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
And we want video of the birthday shenanigans with you and Brittany.
We can make that happen.
We'll put advertisements.
Will you remember?
Advertisements.
Somebody remind us.
Yeah. We'll put advertisements on it.
I'll get my assistant on the case, and
Okay,
Make it to After Dark too.
I mean, depending on the level of shenanigan. Like if we make it all the way to Escapade, yeah, that's going to be After Dark for sure.
That's way harder to do in a pandemic, though.
That's true.
The fact that they have a scale just disturbs me. Jim Ray, thank you for being here. Where can we find you?
I just found out that Escapade is above Shenanigan.
Well, yeah, Kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle,
And then
the other one,
Shenanigan. And then there's 4 kerfuffles in a shenanigan and 7 shenanigans in an escapade. And I think 14 escapades in an international incident.
need a mic drop here.
It's a difficult exchange rate.
Don't ask me how I know.
I lost control a long time ago, Jim.
Yeah.
Where can folks find you?
I'm just amazed that you need to celebrate beyond being here with us. I mean, I would think that would.
Well, there's a reason it started on last Saturday and is going to continue through the coming weekend. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, anyway, find me at ProView.com or ProViewJim at Twitter. And I'm not on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for...
I'm not on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. Let's see, what else am I not on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Snapchat?
Should I go again and give you my MySpace handle?
I'm not on MySpace.
Jim is not in my kitchen.
Yeah.
As far as you know, have you looked recently?
Can you verify your kitchen doesn't have a notch?
Oh, jeez. Thank you for being here, Jim. Warren, where can folks find you?
Oh boy. All this LinkedIn talk reminded me that I've been using LinkedIn because the last week or two. I'm back in the job market, so I don't know what my do you have a handle? I just see my name, but my name's there. So I'm there. So come make my LinkedIn feed more interesting because it needs to do more things. I don't know what does LinkedIn do? Is it like Facebook kind of?
Yes, it's Facebook about business.
Get your job.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Come find me there. It's fun.
Okay. That works. Last but absolutely not least, David Ginsburg. Where can folks find you?
You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. Kelly was on the show last week. We had a lot of fun. Jeff will be on the show. Jeff Gammon will be on this week. You also, and Warren will be back. And you also can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DaveG65. I'm on the Mac Show on Fridays and on the British Tech Network and Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Ed Wood wants to know why we haven't put our GeoCities addresses in.
GeoCities.
Because GeoCities is old news. I'm on AngelFire.
AngelFire was the other one, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
That's going back a ways.
Time machine.
I'm going to ask Jeeves about that one.
Ask Jeeves.
I forgot to give you my AOL and CompuServe addresses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have an AOL address.
You've got mail.
I'm sure we all have AOL addresses.
Yeah.
Don't admit it.
or remember what they are.
That's not a thing you tell people.
That's what I tell everybody that needs an email address. So I don't want to give an email.
Has any, really people are saying you officially destroyed your AOL accounts?
No, I don't think
you just walked away. They're still there waiting for you.
I use mine all the time for spam.
Spam.
Yeah.
You mean for sending it or receiving it?
For receiving it.
Plead the fifth, Warren. Plead the fifth.
I use all my accounts for receiving spam.
We got to wrap up.
Bye.
Yeah, we got to. Thank you, David. Yeah, folks. I think I'm Chuck Joyner. I think this is MacVoices Live. Somewhere it went another direction. We do this Tuesday nights. It usually is. Yeah, it's usually about this crazy. We do it at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We'd love to have you join us. We've had some great conversation and comments in the chat room tonight. So thank you, chat room, very much for being here and for adding to the show. We always appreciate it. So until the next time, I am Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.